Welcome to the Never Ending Backlog podcast, your place for short reviews from a gamer with the goal of reducing his backlog. From adventures to sandboxes, join our host as we walk through a collection of unplayed treasures. Now, let's take a look at the featured game of this episode of the Never Ending Backlog.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Never Ending Backlog podcast. I am your host, Zach, and today we'll be reviewing the PC game Machinarium. It is a side-view point-and-click adventure game with a dark and gritty robotic apocalyptic theme. It actually reminds me of the children's book, The Stinky Cheese Man and the Other Fairly Stupid Tales. It's a kind of an elementary school book, but the theme and the design is very similar. It is a 2D side-scrolling game. It is very illustrated, as I mentioned with the book, kind of reminding me of the book. It is very detailed and very clean. It is very well done. So you basically play as a little robot named Josef that seems to be living in a junkyard planet with other robots in the goal to save his girlfriend. It's developed by Amanita Design, who has also created Creeks, Pilgrims, and other games that follow that unique illustrative art style. It's a very indie art studio kind of game. It has a presence similar to Little Big Planet as well sometimes, like the darker grittiness, but still kind of cute in a way. However, it is point and click that is heavy on the puzzle elements. As I mentioned before, I'm not usually a big fan of point and click games since I like to solve problems in my own way rather than the scripted way. However, Amanita Designs has done a great job with the hint system incorporated into the game. There are basically two ways to go about getting hints. The first way, you can choose the regular hint, which will pop up a little thought bubble above your robot's head and show a brief snippet of what you're supposed to do to traverse to the next room or level. I particularly like this art style since it seems to flow well into the game rather than just pop up with the text. So this game relies heavily on pictures, illustrations, instead of, copy or words and so on. It is very much like you have to solve the puzzle even when they give you hints for the puzzle, which I like that. The second option offers a deeper hint, and it's found within the journal that you carry with you. The pages provide more of a step-by-step guide on how to solve the puzzle. However, in order to open the journal, there's an old-school arcade-like space shooter where you are flying a key that opens up the journal to navigate through the level to enter the keyhole. I think it's a really cool approach and makes you really work to get that hint. It's not just one of those things where it's like, oh, we're just going to keep giving you all these hints. Like, you actually have to play a game to get that hint. The hints are usually enough to keep moving, but they don't spoil too much of the actual puzzle, especially the hint bubbles. Traditionally, it's like the first step to solve in this massive puzzle to go on to the next world, or next room, I should say. Then you start piecing together what you need to do from there. So it might be like, oh, you have to flick the switch up. And then from there, it's on you. It's usually the most challenging part is they try to do. And then you usually start picking up how to do the rest. So I kind of like that. To play the game, you have four-ish, control options. You can do all mouse, all keyboard, a combo of keyboard and mouse, kind of at the ish part, and a game controller. I did a mouse as the keyboard and controller options seem like they would be more frustrating to me. There is a cursor in the game, since it is a point-and-click game, that you use to select items in the world and to move your character. So naturally, it makes sense to use a mouse since it offers quicker, more precise controls. Like if you use a keyboard, you have to use the arrow keys, and you're just moving this cursor slowly across the screen. So it's like controlling like an RTS with a controller. It's just weird. It's just an odd experience. So the mouse just seemed the most natural. There's a caveat with that statement, though. Even though the mouse makes the most sense, the menus are oddly created. So if you move your mouse to the top of the screen, you will see your inventory and your hints pop up. So it's like you scroll to the top, there it is. If you move your mouse to the bottom of the screen, then the game menu will appear. So like exit, options, and so on and so forth. It's convenient since you don't have to push escape or anything to actually, stop the game or change the options, which is really nice. But there's a glitch that I seem to find from time to time. And if the game detects that your cursor is off the screen, so maybe it's off to the left, maybe it's just completely off the screen in general, then there's a pop-up screen that shows Amanita Design's logo and their name. And it's just like a splash screen basically. And many times my mouse would glitch and then it'd pop up. This might have to do with the resolution that I was dealing with, since multi-screen wouldn't operate properly. It tried to force it. It just didn't work. So then I switched to windowed mode, which windowed worked relatively well with the mouse, but it often detected that even if I was in the playable screen area of the window, it'd still glitch out and the Amanita Design logo would appear, even if it was clearly, like I said, in the playable area. So that was really the only technical glitch I actually came across. The design was beautiful. The music was really well done. And overall, I found it to be a fun game. I think it'd be a good game to play with others watching, as they could provide hints and tips along the way. Since the clicking is really only a small part of the game, the storyline is really what takes off. There were quite a few neat components, such as when the player was idle, so your little robot's just not controlling, you're basically AFK. It would have random thought bubbles appear above his head, similar to the hints, but it would be like a robot swimming with another robot, or I think it's probably the robot's girlfriend, in a vat of boiling oil, because remember, it's a robot jacuzzi basically. So it's just a little thing that they throw in there that was really nice. As I mentioned, I think the music is really well done. It had a haunting, eerie effect to it. There were aspects that kind of threw me back to that Oddworld game for the PlayStation 1, and I think PlayStation 2 as well. But very much so like the PlayStation 1, it had like that music style. I would say though, with the music, I would mention there's a low bass that goes along with it. And there were many times where it caught me off guard. It's not like an upbeat hip hop vibe where it's like that type of bass, but it has some low notes that come with the bass. So if you live in an apartment or close to neighbors, I'd keep an eye on the bass because it is like the so keep an eye on that. My pro tip, definitely use your eagle eyes for this game. There are extremely small features in this game that don't have a large presence, but they're required or critical to move on to the next room or world, such as a small blinky light, buttons, wires, etc. There's these small little details where you're just like, I wonder if I can click that. More often than not, you probably can. So just keep an eye on it. Overall, I really enjoyed Machinarium. As I mentioned, it's not really my type of game. However, I do feel it's probably the most adoptable point-and-click game I've played so far out of all the ones I've reviewed. Even having tips that are locked behind arcade-like shooters offer that action-like environment that requires precise moments. Plus, there are times where you need to move from point A to point B quickly in order to solve the problem. So there will definitely be some of the trial error which add to that challenge. I highly recommend this game on Steam, especially if you like a deep storyline that doesn't have a tons of dialogue. It is also very easy. It's easy to kind of adopt. It doesn't require these super quick reflexes as much. It does require a lot of critical thinking, but there is, like most point and click games, there's a set path you have to follow. And as long as you set that path, you will beat the game, whether it's, 1 minute or whatever. According to Is There Any Deal, the best price was free. So Amazon actually gave this away for free. However, the current best price is $14.99. It does have a beautiful soundtrack and art book that you can buy for $4.99 on Steam. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. So that is Machinarium on PC. I got mine in, I think, probably a Humble bundle. But I highly recommend checking it out.